Good morning. Happy New Year. What's going on, everybody? We are the stylists from the break room. We have a very special guest with us today to start off the new year. The creator, the reason why we are able to do what we do. We've got Darren Stork with us. Good morning, Darren. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning.
Hey, Darren, how are you?
John, as always, every week. Good morning to you too, buddy.
I got to interrupt you for just 1 second because today is also a milestone for us.
1 year anniversary of doing the podcast.
Yes, sir. 1 year anniversary of SFTB. We would all not be here talking if it wasn't for the gentleman in the middle. We are eternally grateful to all you guys that watch and to Darren. I'm not grateful to you, Eddie, whatsoever.
Am I supposed to send a cake or something, or what am I?
A candle. You got to sing a song.
Happy New Year to everybody. We've got a great episode for you guys today. We're gonna be picking Darren's brain a little bit. We're gonna find out about how HTB Beauty transformed itself from modest beginnings to the monster that it's becoming. We got some motivation for you guys. We're gonna talk about some things. We're ready to go.
Ready to go.
I'm ready
to go. So, do you want your quiz, Mr. Eddie? Mr. Eddie.
Quiz is always all right. Well, we'll see. We'll see with Darren. Me versus Darren.
Okay.
7.
That's the answer for everything.
Oh,
true.
Okay, you ready? What volume is 12% peroxide?
40.
He knew it before you did. Wow! Edward, Darren.
Oh, that's awesome.
So in my beginning, that was always a combination. You know, they would always tell you both of those two things.
Yeah.
40 volume, 12% or 12%, 40 volume. Yep.
Correct.
Yeah. Just to expand on that, Darren and I have known each other for a really long time before he even drafted me into the insanity that is HTB, because Darren used to be my a color rep for the salon I was at. Many a conversation about peroxide, especially when that color line changed its peroxide.
I could tell you a couple quick things. So I would always pick up peroxides from people because they didn't use 40. At the time, we had a 60 volume, and I would just naturally put the 40 and 60 volume in the back of my car. And of course, the 60, whenever somebody would return a 60, would always break in the back of my car. So every car I've ever had perfectly highlighted carpet. So but it came, it toned quickly. So it was
a little demi-permanent back then.
And I was not smart enough to on the, after it happened the first time, the 43rd time, I said, you know what? That's it. So, all right. Next question. I apologize for.
No. That's great. That's great.
It always fascinates me how a non-hairdresser knows the specifics of things better than a hairdresser does.
If you want the other story, so at one point, the company, there was a company out there that was producing a product that a stylist would put on their hands to create protection so they wouldn't have to wear gloves.
Oh yeah,
I remember that.
So the guy was insistent that it worked, just like in a old commercial. So the guy was so insistent that it worked, they had me volunteer. I was the idiot, of course, that they volunteered, and they said, put your hand in the stuff, and how hot, what do you think would happen if you put it in 60 volume? And I said it would burn like hell. He goes, don't worry. This is going to work. So they had me dip my hand. They had me put my hand in the 60 volume. And for the first 9 minutes of screaming, it did not work. after I fainted, and it really was. It did not. Like that usually doesn't happen. I go, of course, it usually doesn't happen.
usually it
This
does.
time. So, needless to say, we did not take that product on. But that again was a very true story. That the fake glove, I don't remember what they called it, but it did not work. So if anybody's trying to sell you a product that you can do that, don't volunteer. Yeah, that's another thing. Don't volunteer for any hucksters.
If it sounds like an as seen on TV, it should stay as seen on TV.
It's hard to be the joker of the group because no one felt sorry for me. So it was.
Okay, so here's your second question, right along those lines. That was a beautiful segue, Darren. I love that. How many levels of lift will 40 volume give you, Eddie? A, 2 levels, B, 3 levels, C, 4 levels, or D, deposit only?
Your answers are incorrect. It's 3 to 4 levels. You
Four,
should have like a sub answer in there.
max of 4 levels.
I will okay that answer. Yes.
Because
it doesn't. Don't we have to take into texture and porosity and
But all that. But usually, what they'll tell you is 3 to 4 levels of lift. So my phone is losing its mind. There we go. So yeah, 4 levels. Max is 4 levels of lift with color.
Under the perfect circumstances, right?
Under perfect circumstances with color, you'll get 4 levels of lift. So here's the next question then. What is the role of an acid rinse? A, to close the cuticle, B, open the cuticle, or C, help processing time?
Yeah, I seen the Aliens movie. The acid rinse melts your face off.
Not great for business, but go ahead.
See, guys, for anybody watching, this is what poor Darren has to deal with, is the silliness with all 3 of us. So A, close the cuticle, B, open the cuticle, C, help the color process.
Do you want me to answer?
Yes.
Do you want me to help, Eddie?
Please help me.
No, I don't know. My guess would be A.
It's a good guess because that's the right answer.
And it's the correct guess. Acid rinses close the cuticle. Back in the day, when color was super alkaline, you used to have, crank that cuticle open, and you got to get that cuticle closed back down. So they would actually do an acid rinse. Some old school salons would actually use distilled vinegar, white vinegar, to close the cuticle down and trap that color inside the hair shaft. So yes, A. So number 4, true or false? For every minute of toning, you get 1 shampoo.
Man, these color questions today. Every minute of toning, you get lasts for 1 shampoo.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's true.
As usual, if Eddie says it, I agree.
This is the ultimate copy off the kid next to you.
It is true. It is true. The rule of thumb with toning is for every minute you leave it sit on, it equals 1 shampoo. Once again, texture and porosity play into that, but that's usually your rule of thumb. Am I missing out on anything there, Eddie?
Hey, look,
because I learned that from you.
Deposit, color, chemistry is an amazing thing. Coloring is very complicated. There's a lot of variables involved. But at the end of the day, the product has to absorb into the hair, and that takes time. There's a lot of additives. There's a lot of techniques. There's a lot of tricks and things that we try to do to speed up this process. But at the end of the day, it's got to cook. It's got to get in there. It's got to do what it needs to do. It's no different than when you're microwaving something. You microwave something for 2 minutes and you're like, it's fine. Well, yeah, The outside is nuclear, but the inside is still an ice cube. You just didn't give it enough time, to get in there. And microwaving is probably the best analogy I'll give for toning. On the outside, it may look good on the surface, but you didn't give it a chance to get in there to do the change that you needed it to do. That's why after a week or two, after a few shampoos, the client's calling you again going, nah, I don't know, the color is off. And then we're coming up with all the excuses, that we come up with. But did you breathe? Did you sleep? Did you eat food? That's why it, faded off. See, it's your fault.
You slept in front of an open window. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
But here's a question that I have for you, and it's on the same subject, is that when you tone a client, do you set up for them to come in do you tell them I'd like to see you in X amount of time for a refresher?
Depends on the color and it depends on the client.
Right. But
so Darren's rule of thumb is if we like the person, then we do nice for them. If we don't like the person, then
it's a strict rule. So
it's a strict rule.
Is that why when my boxes come into the salon, I get all the crushed color boxes?
You don't, right?
That is correct.
How much we like
you. That's awesome. That is freaking great. So. And then my last question, and I'm gonna guess Darren knows this. When you order, when people order hair color, any hair color line, and this is global, what is the most popular color in the U.S. as far as the hair color line goes? Was the most ordered?
That one's easy. I mean, that one is in everything I've ever sold is always the same. Well, some European level systems may vary it from ours, but there's no question that 6N is sold dramatically more than any color we sell.
6N
closely followed by 5 and 7. So just think about that. 60 to 70% of the population, if not more, is a brunette.
Right? How cool is that? But wouldn't 5.5 be? Because because 6NN is really popular with a lot of color lines.
That's a whole nother rant for another day.
That was that is your quiz for the day. Well done, young Darren. Well done. Super. Darren knows more than you do, Eddie.
I tell you. I tell you.
Well, that's also because, the cool part about the three of us is that all three of us came up in this industry, since we were kind of born into it. I have lost my computer, just went blank. Hold on 1 second, guys. Sorry. There we go. So along those lines that we were just talking about, and we actually, we all get on before this goes on. One of the most important things, without clients, we don't have a salon. Without clients, we don't need to order products, et cetera, et cetera. But here's my question to you, and it could also go with business too, Darren, is that when you have that client/customer who just makes life so difficult and you just don't want to do business with them anymore, how do you approach that?
He has them call me.
And it's worked very well for a long time.
but okay, so then then I guess we'll let Darren interject. But Eddie, how do you tell a client I can no longer service you?
There's this great guy in Glenview. There's a great hairdresser in Glenview. You know the answer to that one. You've inherited quite a few.
I need better friends. I really do. I need better friends.
So Darren, how do you other than passing them off to me, how else would you advise people who don't have me around for them to help them out?
My job, to be quite honest with you, is usually simple, because there's really only two questions I get. One is a technical problem, which that's always going to be you guys answering the question. So I have an easy answer. Somebody says this happened, that happened. I say, yeah, good news. Here's Eddie's number. We should be getting I'll get you an answer immediately. I guess certain inventory issues people have that, in virtually every case are unavoidable. Companies, the manufacturers run out of stuff. Things come from Asia that, takes 9 months to a year to get in certain cases on, packaging and so on. And, why don't you have this? Why don't you have that? And, for the most part, people are understanding. There's those, like you're talking about, those few people, and we just tell them, there's nothing we can do about that. But luckily, we have a little different relationship with our customer base that is such a personal relationship that it really doesn't, it really doesn't, we really don't have any issues like that. It's a lot different from, I think, your world. From our world, we're able to accommodate just about any situation somebody has. And just like Eddie was talking about before we got on, if you're out of a color, in an emergency, Eddie can come up with a rigged color, using a level 4 and a level 8 to come up with a level 6 as he was talking about. And of course, 99% of all color questions always happen to somebody that is getting married. They're in for 10 minutes. They're in between flights, and they sorry they forgot to order 4 weeks ago, but so somebody's going to see the president or something, some absurd thing. And, in most cases, luckily, with the extension brands we sell, there's always an alternative color. With hair color, as you guys know, there's always a workaround. There's always 7 or 8 ways to make the same thing happen. And even in those cases, as long as we come close, the customer really never knows. So from my end, it's an easy answer. Right. So I'm not probably the best person to ask because, like I said, we just don't have that, many issues because we have very personalized.
That's super cool. That's cool. Eddie, how do you, besides sending them to me?
I don't. I send them to you. If it's a client, I send them to you. If it's a stylist, it's actually like Darren is saying, all jokes aside, like Darren is saying, by the time they get on the phone with me, they're borderline desperate or just so frustrated that they're almost about to give up. In a lot of cases, I've brought people back from the edge, of just giving up. And we spend time talking to them on the phone. We'll get on, on a Zoom thing, on a stream, meet up with each other in person, whatever it takes to help somebody figure something out. Right. We do spend the time to talk to people, and it's just that open communication with somebody. Because that's the other thing too. I'm not very judgmental. If you're on the phone with me, something's goofed up. I get it. It's not about pointing fingers and saying, oh, rah, 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 complaining. It's about you got a client sitting in the chair who's freaking out. You're freaking out. We need to get past that, and we need to get to the finish line. Like we gotta make something happen here. So I'm almost, it's better than it's actually fun. It's painful in the moment to see somebody in hurt, or not feeling good, but it's actually fun to be able to take somebody who's down and out for the moment, help them get back up on their feet, stand tall, dust themselves off, and start moving forward again. Right. So it's and just like Darren was saying, I mean, my number goes out to everybody freely, openly, all the time. I take calls all the time because that's how open of a relationship and a personalized relationship we have with people.
That's awesome.
So it works out.
So from my end, John, usually it's kind of like an ER doctor. By the time I see them again, they've already been fixed up.
Right.
and they're smiling and they've got a sucker in their mouth and they're they're smiling. So that is, and I don't ever pretend to know answers. That's what Eddie does, and that's what you do. And my job is to facilitate that and to find solutions. Sometimes we'll call, some questions relate all the way to the manufacturer, and we'll get the manufacturer on the line if people have specific questions that deep. But luckily you guys have the answer 99% of the time. And like I said, I've never really had to fire somebody to answer the original question, because at the end of the day, people are really in our level. They're just looking to know that somebody is looking out for them. And if they have that kind of issue, that we have an answer. And we don't advertise it as such. We probably will, but we call it direct to the tech, which is our little thing that says you get to call somebody immediately. And Eddie's number is, even if you come to our office, Eddie's number is right on the front of the door. So even if it's Saturday or Sunday and you have an emergency, Eddie, will answer the call. So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
It is what it is.
From my end, and not to stroke or anything, but that's one of the things that when I had the opportunity to jump on board with you guys, I knew what you guys were all about, and that was how many decades ago? Almost 2 decades ago. I knew what I was getting into, and I was all for it, because it's all about helping, and it's all about. I feel like we should be singing "Kumbaya" together,
and we do.
It is, yeah.
But if you think about it, I mean, to Darren's point, just to mirror Darren's point again, we're very open, and Darren's you've created that environment for us to be very open. If we have the answer, give it. If you don't have the answer, don't be making stuff up out of your butt just to sound cool. Right. If you don't have the answer, you don't have the answer. That's okay. We'll find somebody who has the answer.
Right.
And really, I tell you, man, 9 times out of 10, just having somebody hear the truth, for as brutal as it is refreshing.
Right.
And with no judgment. That's the thing. There's no judgment behind what we do. We don't have an ulterior motive other than we want to help you. If you're doing good, we're doing good. If you're doing bad, we're equally doing bad on our side too. So it is that personalized relationship that we do a little bit different than just talking to some AI bot or some customer service rep who's got, a third party company, nothing to do with the brand you're calling. So
that's awesome. That is awesome. So that answers that end of things. So I think we're going to get into the meat of why we have Darren here. Other than because with Darren here, we both look so much better. Darren,
that goes without saying.
Darren, give us the history from the starting of HTB, and it wasn't HTB to start with, right? It started
technically as Bosley of Illinois.
Okay.
So if we're to go way, 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 way back, so again, my father was in the business, but really a lot of it on other ends of the business. So he was involved. He had a trade magazine called the Chicagoland Hairdresser. And my earliest memory of it was, believe it or not, 1972. And I was dragged by my mother to the hair show downtown. And at that time, it was in a hotel. I don't remember. I think it was the Congress Hotel. Mm. And it was like on 3 or 4 floors, like kind of in the, like the 3rd, 4th, 5th floor of a hotel, where there's meeting rooms and so on. And why that stands out to me is I was dragged because my mother had no clue as to what my father was doing. All she knew is that young women were calling our house all the time. My father's office was in our house. So all she heard was a 20, 30, 40-year-old woman calling our house. And again, he came from a complete different world. And then like a year or two later, he was helping run the beauty show. So this was all new to my mother. So she was not going to, she had to investigate what was going on. And so I was dragged, and all I can remember is being literally dragged by the arm up and down these stairs to my mother checking out what was going on. And of course, my father being a business, the business came first no matter what. So, not worrying about the 20, 30-year-old women were calling it, he was all clean and he checked out, luckily, because it took me probably a couple months to recover from my arm injuries as I was being dragged along. But so that led forward. I was, as John said, a sales rep, and one of my associates, I was out of the business for a year or two, and somebody that had worked for another brand had switched over an entire chain, and they had 100,000 tubes of hair color that they were going to throw out. And she goes, I better, maybe Derek could do something with that, Mr. Color salesman. So she calls me up, and there's 100,000 tubes. And, again, at that time I was married, and nothing your wife likes more than you coming home with a truckload of 100,000 tubes of color that, I figured a way to divide it. And at the time that the brand I was selling, we will not mention the other brand, but it had 72 shades. So I created 72 boxes, and we sorted through 100,000 tubes of color. And I started the business. Now in doing this, I met a guy who knew the people at Bosley, and they said, "Hey, do you want to be a distributor?" And I said, "Hell yeah, bring it on." So from that day, from meeting this person, very shortly after, I developed Bosley of Illinois. I'll tell you the quick story about that. So the Bosley people were incredible people. And the guy that was head of the marketing really wanted to make an impression on, on his bosses. And he said, "We want to do an event. We think you're a good fit for us, but we want to do a big event." I said, "Okay, cool." So them not being from Chicago said, "The date we have available is the end of January." I said, "No, we don't do." This is Chicago. We don't do big events in January. He goes, "Oh, no. This is the date we have available, and we will do it." And I said, "Please listen to what I say. Don't do it in January." He said, "Darren, if you want to be involved, we'll do it in January." So they went all out. They sent out this beautiful card, spent tens of thousands of dollars. And even just to give you an example of the quality of the show, they had popcorn as an appetite, like as a snack for the people coming. They were expecting a couple hundred people. The popcorn alone was over $5,000. They had all these fancy popcorns. Well, the good news was, as you'll hear why, I left the show with $4,900 of the popcorn. But that was so. In leaving. So about 70 people registered. And when I say, I'm talking A+ top salons had said they're going to be there. The Bosley people had such a great name that they, were able to do it. And I'm talking to my dad, getting my big pep talk before the show. I said, as long as it doesn't snow today, this is going to be the greatest day of my business life. I am going to launch a successful business. So the night before, it says no snow, nothing. I am going, oh my God, this is the stars are aligning. This is going to be perfect. So as I'm leaving, and the show was downtown, it's a blizzard. It's an all-out blizzard. And unbelievably, as it turned out, like 8 people showed up. the people that took mass transportation weren't affected. So they took trains and whatever, and they lived downtown and they just took a cab. So it was us, the entire Bosley team who had stayed at the hotel. So they didn't have to worry about it. It took me like 4 hours. I left like at 3 a.m. to get there. And 8 people showed up, and those 7 or 8 people ended up going into the line. But to say the least, that guy was fired. And I don't know if he was fired or he just said, you know what, he did his shot anyway. So long story short, about a month after that, so that was in January. In March, we were at the hair show, and the Bosley, this guy, they didn't really put their full effort into doing the show because of what happened in January. So we had this booth, which 0 people actually came to the show. But because I had so much time, I ended up going to the SoCap USA booth. And at that time, we had heard about extensions, and so I met the people from then it was called SoCap, now it's called She, of course, as everybody who uses us knows. And so I told my wife, who was also at the show, I said, "Oh, we're bringing up the second line." She goes, "Well, the first line's not doing so good. Definitely, we shouldn't be going into the second line." Now, by just, again, the stars were lined up. As I went back to the Bosley booth, somebody I knew very well, I said, "Hey, just out of curiosity, if I go into extensions, would would that be of interest?" And his reaction was so incredible. He said, "Darren, are you going into extensions?" He said, we want that immediately. And I'm like, so I said this to my wife. I said, "Oh, this thing's popular." Now, again, the reason she was so scared is our best friend's wife, our best couple friend that we've known for, our whole life. She had extensions previously, and the result was a disaster. That was old school, 30-year ago extensions.
Right.
And she was, "Oh, no. That's, remember Mary Ann said this and that, and that." So I said, "Yeah, I remember that. That can't be good." So I kept walking back and forth, and I kept bringing her to the She booth, and I met one of the guys, and so he was put in charge of hard selling me because they could see I was kind of interested. So he was kind of a biker guy. So he was fully tatted and, wore boots and, no dress clothes like a business person normally would be. And he goes, "Let me show you my portfolio." He was also a hairstylist. And he showed me he had two books. One was regular people. One was strippers. So he showed me the book of strippers and how good the hair. I go, strippers. This is not something I can, this is interesting to me. So, and again, we're making jokes about the strippers, blah, blah, blah. So then we end up going back to the SoCap booth, and I'm already sold. I'm in, based on what the first guy said. I am Ralph Cramden. You give me any inkling of a good idea, I am taking it on. So, but she was not so sold. And as I walked to the booth, another person that I knew, I said, "Hey, I just talked to somebody else, and just out of curiosity, if we went into extensions, would you guys be in the same reaction, like over the top? Oh my God, we've been searching." So from that day, so that was Sunday, a week from that Sunday to the next Monday, so 8 days later, we had a full class sold of extensions. There were 8 people at that class. One of the people is who Eddie works with, Sabrina. So from day one, that's you talk about a quality product and the reverse of firing people. We can't even get rid of people. So
Right.
of the 8 people that were at that class, and that's 21 years ago, of the people that are still in the business, I think like 6 of the 8 people still are our customer.
That's awesome.
One was a girl that used to work with Sabrina. that ended up going on our own. And so that led to, that was the start of, Here's the Bling. Now, where that whole story leads to is, when I was coming up with this, I said, my idea of a business is, I was a sales rep for all these years. I said, we are not going to have a typical, most of the sales rep don't do anything. We go and visit, we take, we'll write an order down. I said, I'm going to do this differently. I said, we are going to be an education-based company and not really use salespeople. Now, with extensions, that made a lot of sense. And for the first while, we did it. And then we got a visit from Eddie at one of our extension classes. And he said, I like what you guys do. I want to come join the team. And I said, okay. So the rest is history. Eddie, unlike, other people, Eddie is not a part-time person. Eddie is 100%, works full-time, 100%. So that was kind of the genesis of how we wanted to separate ourselves, is that we became an education company only. Over the years, we've used a few salespeople, but it really hasn't worked out. And we are, you get Eddie. So Eddie wears 46 hats. We certainly, we brought you on as well. And that was the nature of, I just wanted to deal with, experts that knew, who could talk to a stylist. I didn't want a sales rep that 3 days a week was out at Denny's, or watching movies, because that's literally what a lot of the sales reps I worked with. So that is the genesis. We started with She, then we brought on All Nutrients. We had the great fortune in between all that to meet Robert Reed of Ergo. And he has been my teacher and mentor ever since. He introduced me to a lot of top people. He is literally the Kevin Bacon 7 degrees of the beauty industry. Literally, there's not anybody that is not directly related to Robert Reed, and that has helped me. He introduced us to people like Ian Gavay, indirectly to Nicholas French. So it really, that part has worked out. So long story short, the genesis of the business is to create a whole different world, which was to create a education company rather than a salesperson driven company. Did I answer any part of the question? Because I know I get into Wonderland.
Well, I want to go through the succession of names. From Bosley of what were you? Bosley of
Illinois.
Bosley of Illinois. Then we became Salon Memo.
No, SoCap.
Oh, SoCap.
SoCap USA.
SoCap USA.
Because we then became the to be honest with you, I can't remember the order. But it was either SoCap USA or Salon Memo. And then I had a dream. And in the dream, I said, I could picture Here's the Bling. Somehow that literally came into a waking dream. I said, Here's the Bling. And what that meant to me was, and it really is been true my whole life, is that a woman, well, men, but mainly women, their hair outdoes any jewelry, any fur coat, any piece of clothing. The most important, my wife will not leave the house, unless, she feels her hair looks good. So, if she's got bad shoes on, maybe, but hair has to be done. And I said, hair's the bling, hair is the bling, which is the top thing that a woman thinks about, when she's doing stuff. So that's where that came from. The only negative to Here's the Bling was that when we said the name, people, when they try, in the modern world, trying to get to the website, we would have to say it 36 times. Here's the Bling. Bing? No. Hairs. Hair, like HERE. No, hair like on the head. All right, screw it. We then became HTB. Is that easier to spell? Can you spell HTB? Yes. So HTB is the current, which still stands for Hair's the Bling.
Yep.
But it's more user friendly and so on. So that is where that comes from.
That is fantastic. I want to kind of dive into just a couple of about the products. When someone brings a product you, hey Darren, we want you to represent, we want you to distribute this. Is there a criteria? Is there a type of product that you're looking for? Talk to me about that. Talk to me about the type of products that we represent, and what's your motivation behind, okay, I'm going to take on all nutrient hair color over some giant mass produced line, or I'm going to take on Xenogen. What really trips the trigger in your head to go, yes, this is what I want to do?
So as a smaller operation, we have to have items that are unique to us, and that is the case. Let me move this a little bit. We have to find things that are unique to us, and that's what we have found in all the items that we that we come up, that they're unique. Obviously they have to produce, they have to produce good not even good results, great results. Every product out there has a good result. There is the companies don't test products. Major billion-dollar companies don't create poor products. They're all good products. The question is, how easy are they to use? Can you get consistent results? And like I said, in our case, we look for things that do all those things, and they're kind of unique to us. So we've really gotten lucky. Like with She Hair Extensions, formerly SoCap USA Hair Extensions, is just it's just a different level. So people that don't know extensions, She is one of the only brands that actually makes their own extensions. It is not a white labeled product. There's an actual factory for She, and the quality control is so substantial that they have what they call floor hair. Floor hair means all the hair that they have rejected ends up on the floor. And guess what happens to that hair on the floor? It goes to other companies.
It becomes
they don't. Yeah. So what we reject, and this is right from the owner's mouth. So unfortunately, the guy doesn't speak a lot of English, Antonio, but I've had the pleasure of going out to dinner with him about 20 times. And through translators and so on, he's explained this process. And it really is, when it comes to keratin tip extensions, there's nobody that can touch She extensions. And we knew it from the beginning. We knew the quality. And again, they're so good in their quality that most companies will put some sort of silicone on the hair because it masks the actual quality. So the difference between a She result and many other companies' results is the other company that masks the hair. After that mask wears off, they get a lesser result. Where She hair, for anybody that's used it, actually gets better, because as the nutrients from the hair actually get entwined to the extension hair, it actually gets more. It gets a better result. So that was one thing. We met all nutrients, and we've probably been offered about 50 color lines, and just the reaction you have with people that use all nutrient is so strong that there's really I have no reason to look anywhere else. They've priced it incredibly well, and so for the price and for the result, it is untouchable. It's a perfect fit for us. Robert Reed, we met. Ergo, again, very unique product, very unique set of tools. It was a product that was designed for hairstylists. And again, anybody that uses Ergo, they don't ever stop. It is one of the most loyal products you can have out there. It's comfortable for the stylist. It's just like it says. It takes the pain and the agony of doing the hardest thing in the beauty industry, which is doing blow dries, which is labor intensive. And he really did search out a way to alleviate that. I was in Vegas, I don't know, it's about 7 years ago now. And there was a contest. I'm losing my thought. What's the big show on TV where you pitch your products?
The Shark Tank.
The Shark Tank. Like, again, excuse me, I'm all nervous for being on my big performance here. So they had a version of Shark Tank at the hair show in Vegas, and the people from Xenogen got up, and I go, this is just unbelievable. These guys, this is a company I've got to work with. And to be quite honest with you, it's got to be if not our most pleasant experience, one of our most pleasant experiences working with the Xenogen people, because they're so passionate about that whole niche or segment, I guess would be a better way, and it's continued to get better and better and better. Same thing, we've gotten offers to sell 6-7 other brands like it. It works. It's competitively priced. They keep coming up with newer products that add to the original set of products. So to answer your question again, I'm not the guy that gives you easy, quick answers. Is that we look for things that, the funny part is, and we've lived by this. We call it the Eddie test. So Eddie tests everything that we use, and I give them one very strict thing. I said, if you like this product, we're not getting it. If you say I love this product, we will bring it on. And so, like I said, nobody has presented a product to Eddie that's ever been bad. There is no such thing.
I didn't realize the weight and the gravity of that. You and I was in Vegas, Darren, and we were looking at potentially new products, and people kept coming up to us and talking to you and pitching you stuff. And I was standing next to you. I'd be listening. And then as we'd walk away, you'd be like, what'd you think? I'd be like, yeah, I think that was pretty cool. And you're like, okay, cool. And then next guy, what'd you think? Yeah, I think that was pretty nice. I think that was pretty cool. It's like, yeah, okay, next guy. And like it happened a couple of times in a row, but then we wouldn't go back. And then the next day we were walking around and like, hey, what do you guys, what do you think? And then Darren, you'd look at them and be like, I'll think about it. Until it was one guy that came over and was talking to us. And then as we were walking away, same thing. You say, oh, what do you think? I'm like, man, that guy really knows what he's talking about. Like that guy, that was pretty cool. That was freaking awesome. And you're like, all right, that's the one we're getting.
Well,
and it was Mike. It was Mike Bell. So
for Keratherapy. So yeah. So
that's how we got Keratherapy. That's when I realized the gravity of you're like, I really got to be careful how I respond about stuff.
Well, you guys know it from your end. An average result or a good result is a very dangerous place to be. A superior result is a much more comfortable environment, and I live by that. But it's the brands we sell. Like I said, we have very little. People that move away, and then the last thing that we really have started skyrocketing in the last 2 years is the onstage extensions, and as wefts and that kind of and reusable hair became into the market, our friends Bernard and RJ, who are also She distributors, basically searched the world, and they said, you know what, we can't, if we're going to sell, that kind of product, we can't have something that is like everybody else. Yeah. And on stage it fits the criteria so perfectly. It is so unique. It's so simple that it takes away the big headache of doing reusable hair into such a level that it really is. We've really, it's really taken up a favorite. It's amongst our favorite products right now, and always will be, because it's unique. It works. The quality control from the manufacturer is so spectacular that it just again fits our criteria perfectly.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And that's, you know, from my end, that is one of the coolest things about being part of this, is that the products are so unique, and everything it doesn't just work. It gives you that step up that you can have with your clients and with the results. I'm 100% sold. That gives everybody kind of an idea of what goes on behind HTB Beauty. So in closing, I have a saying that you guys kind of embedded in my head, and this was a while back. And it's a great motivational. It's a great way to end this, because it is motivational. And I'm going to let Darren say it, because what's our saying, Darren?
Now you really put me on the spot. I have to think.
My
favorite saying is "whatever it takes."
That's it exactly.
Whatever it takes.
That's it exactly. And what does "whatever it takes" mean to you, Darren?
It really is. It sounds like a thing, but it really is something that we live by. And the reality is, we have done scenarios that no other company in the world would do. And when I tell this to people, they go, nah, that can't be true. But on more than a few occasions, Eddie has done a class because the customer needed a scenario that other people couldn't do. So I'll say it and then I'll let him confirm it. But it started, one of our top extension users, her only availability was midnight. So we did a class from midnight to 6 o'clock in the morning. Now that since we did that original, and that's about 12 or 13 years ago, we did that class. We've done several other ones similar to it. We did one, I want to say it was like 3 in the morning to 9 in the morning. We did one like at 4 in the morning to 10 in the morning. We've done every imaginable configuration of a class. And when I tell people that, they go, wait, what do you mean? They go, yeah, that's the only time the customer had. And from my own point of view, and again, when I first started with the extensions, it was a lot rougher group of people that were attracted to it. So one of the first girls that I met, I can only meet her in an alley. She worked in like, I can't even think of a part of the city, but again, we're, like Belmont, where they do a lot of the tattooing and again, to me, I'm from the suburbs. So again, to regular people, it's not very, very intimidating. But again, this is 25 years ago. And she said, I don't like you to come to the front of the salon. So we would meet like at 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning in this alley. And she ordered enough that I said, no problem, I'll be there. You want it? And another big one that we did is I had a guy call. It was midnight, and he said, I'm doing he was Mexican, and he said, I'm doing a big Mexican wedding tomorrow. And I said, well, what does that mean? A Mexican? He goes, well, Mexican weddings are very large. 500. There's 500 people come to this event, and I go, 500 people. Wow, that is incredible. And he said, but there's a girl that is kind of a very popular person, and I think if we get her to wear the extensions, I can go crazy. Everybody will see she wears the extensions, and I think it'll be a great thing. And he was doing it obviously to coax me in, because again, it was midnight, and I said, okay, that sounds good to me. So I met him at 3 in the morning at a Wendy's parking lot. We met halfway, and the rest was history. I said, that's and we do that all the time. I'll call Eddie. I said, you know what, this person, there's a dire situation. The person forgot to order something. They ordered 40 pieces of hair. They really needed 80, and the person is leaving on a plane. And I'll say, Eddie, you got to get over there. And it just doesn't matter. We've done that probably over the years 100 times where somebody needed an absolute emergency thing, and we get in the car and we do it.
Right. That's fantastic. Eddie, what does it mean to you?
I mean, it really is mind blowing. It really, really is mind blowing because in the beginning, Darren and I also are kind of unique in such a way of we don't sleep much. So when we tell people, they're like, oh yeah, I don't sleep either. I'm like, no, you don't understand. We don't sleep much. So when people would be like, okay, well, I'm like, yeah, just call whenever. It doesn't matter. And sure enough, what blows my mind is somebody calls in the middle of the night and then you pick up the phone and like, oh, you're awake. You actually answered. Well, you're actually calling. I mean, what's the difference? Why is it a shock that I'm answering if you're the one that's calling, It's it blows my mind. And then kind of like the classes. Oh, yeah, you guys probably wouldn't be interested. You can't help us. We're only available at midnight. I'm like, I'll call your bluff. I'll show up at midnight and do a class. Let's go. Let's do it. And I'm like, wait, what? Really? Like, what? Well, you throwing it out there? And I said yes. When somebody asks you a yes/no question and they're really expecting you to say no, but then you like reverse them, and then all of a sudden they're like, wait, what? We're really doing this? But to see people's excitement, they're like, oh, they're actually doing it. I think my couple of favorite ones was get a phone call. It's about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, something like that. I'm like, yeah, I'll answer it. I don't care. I was up. I didn't have anything else going on. I was contemplating, like, should I? I'm like, I'll just answer it. All you hear is, see, I told you he'd answer. I told you, you owe me. And it was a couple of hairdressers who had gotten drunk and they started making bets with each other, trying to one up each other. And the one stylist told her other stylist friend, I got this tech guy that'll answer the phone at any time. And he's like, BS. Boom, done. It's like my other favorite one. We had this Korean account. And
I was going to bring that up.
Oh man, I love her. They're awesome. But a lot of them, they don't speak English or their English isn't good enough. So they always need a translator. So I said, yeah, sure, no problem. But the only time they're available is same thing, so late at night. So it's happened a handful of times. It's like, oh, okay, can you come in after we're done? Oh, yeah, sure. When do you want to start? Yeah, about 10 o'clock at night. Yeah, okay. 2 hours. We're going to be there till midnight. I'm like, yeah, okay. So I'll tell Darren, I'm going over there 2 hours to be done by midnight. I'll call you when I'm leaving. All right. We get done at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And I look at my phone. There's like 70 missed calls from Darren. He's like, where are you? What happened? Are you okay? I'm like, no, the translator, it really was a 2-hour class. But because of translating, it took 5 hours. And nobody blinked. Nobody got squirmy. Everyone's like, when are you going to come back again? And then it's the same thing. We've done all these overnight classes. And it's so hilarious to me because everybody wants to go out to eat after the class is over. Like it's 3 o'clock in the morning, or it's 6 o'clock in the morning by then, or it's 9 o'clock in the morning by then. And, we've started at midnight, or we've started at 2 or 3 o'clock. I was like, oh, you're not going home, right? We're going to take you out for breakfast to like, thank you. I'm like, you know what? Breakfast it is. There is something to be said for doing these crazy programs, like these crazy hours. But then afterwards, you break bread with somebody too. Like that's the relationship that Darren's talking about. And that's really the thing of when somebody truly realizes you will do whatever it takes to try to help them be successful. And we're doing it. I mean, look, I said it earlier. If you are doing good with your clientele, by default, we are equally doing good as well. If you are hurting with your business and your clientele, then our business would be hurting, respectfully, right? Because it's all proportional. So of course it's in our best interest to do good by you and help you be successful. That's just a no-brainer. It's the credit is 100% to Darren though, because it really, he is too nice. You do bend over backwards to help people. And if it's, I mean, I've learned a crap ton of stuff from you over the years, but that is one of the things that I've learned the most is just how much you give to help somebody. And we don't really argue about a lot of things, but the few things that we do argue about, one of them is, Like if I think somebody's taking advantage of Darren's kindness, oh man, does that set me off? That like sets me through the roof, and I get really worked up about it. But it's just because you can't help but be attracted to dealing with him because you're so nice, you're so good to people, and that's really what it's been.
Does that include the about 14 times we had to go sing karaoke?
I tell you, man, I'm telling you, it's like the things. The relationship, like when Darren, when you asked the original question about how do you get rid of clients, and Darren jokingly said, forget about getting rid of them. We don't fire anybody. We can't even get rid of the ones we have. I mean, the relationship is such a strong relationship. We've known people now for over a decade and going on 2 decades. Some people, now they're having kids. Now we're starting to see their kids grow up. Their kids come and draw us, little pictures or whatever they draw us. I mean, it's like, it really is wild. It really, really is wild to see people, now they're getting married. We knew them when they were single,
That's awesome.
It's crazy.
That is fantastic. And Darren, I think I speak for anybody who knows you. We appreciate you. I appreciate you more. You took a big chance on me a long time ago, and I appreciate you more than you know. Eddie, I don't appreciate you whatsoever.
I don't know why I got stuck. I got stuck with you because you don't want to deal with you.
Wrong. That's so wrong, and that's a story for another day. Yeah. So
okay,
with that being said, Darren, thank you for everything that for giving us HTB. Thank you for being the industry professional that you are. Well,
thank you guys too. I appreciate. And again, part the only thing that makes what we do work is that we provide trainings and information that people just can't get anywhere else, and that's because you guys are study your craft, study the industry at a level that people just don't realize, and that really is the key ingredient. Is that we don't just give textbook answers. We you guys are working, and working is a very small term. You guys are really have, you personally, John, have one of the biggest books in hair color. And so when you say something works, you're not guessing that it worked. And that's, I can rely on that information. Eddie is a student of this game. And again, you talk about calls at 3 a.m. and Eddie will say something like, I've been watching these videos for the last 3 hours, and this you got to do this. This is what's hot, and this is what's going to happen. And that's really where this all comes from. Is that I'm just trying to continuously build, on that kind of expertise. And like I said, Ergo has that kind of expertise. The people we deal with them. Xenogen has the same expertise. The people from All Nutrient have been doing it for 40. You talk about knowing certified organic ingredients. They basically, pioneered it. And so they're on the 30th generation when, most companies are just starting. So, that's literally, what we look for. So, again, I appreciate what you guys do, and, keep it up.
Yep. And that is the end of our 1-year anniversary show. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Eddie. And we'll get back at this next week.
All right. Sounds good, guys. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks a lot.
The SFTB podcast was not recorded in front of a live studio audience, so thanks for joining us for today's episode. If our hair topics made you smile, give us a thumbs up. Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'll read them while waiting for our caller to process. Share this video with your stylists and friends. It helps us make a difference, one strand at a time. And don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Because your hair deserves all the latest and greatest tips.